Hey friends, it's Tara with Wellness with Tara. I hope you are doing well today. So today I want to tell you a little story, and I'm going to kind of go into a story that you might find entertaining, maybe even somewhat funny, but that was very painful and real at the time that I think we can learn a lot from. If you have not already read the blog that I put out this week, this is a repeat of some stuff that I wrote on the blog, but I think that you will appreciate it. So rewind, my husband and I have been married for almost 12 years now, but rewind to when we were newlyweds. We had been married less than a month, and I decided I was going to cook dinner. Now, at this point in time, I had no idea how food kind of impacted my well-being and my health, and we were really just trying to eat as cheap and as simply as possible. And so I was in there, and I decided I was going to cook spaghetti with ground beef, like browned beef, right, and some toast. Simple, right? Wrong. Because that night I managed to overcook my noodles, I managed to not make enough pasta sauce, and I also managed to burn the toast. And so in my head I was thinking, Tara, how could you do this? Nobody overcooks noodles. Like, you burnt the toast. God, I'm such a terrible cook. I always mess things up. I'm such a failure. All of this from a simple meal of spaghetti with toast that went south, right? One meal, one simple meal, and I have gone from, a failed meal to I am a failure. What a shameful statement, right? And so going from something that, some people could have looked at and just kind of laughed it off, like, well, guess that didn't turn out the way I wanted to, from that to I'm a failure. So have you ever had a time like this where, something didn't go the way that you wanted it to, or maybe you were trying to do something in the end, you either felt I'm not good enough, nobody cares about me, nobody loves me, I'll only be happy when fill in the blank. I can only be happy when I've lost weight. I'll only be happy when I'm married. I'll only be happy when I'll have children. I'll be happy when I'm done with school. I'll be happy when I've switched jobs. All these different things you can think of when something is going to change, and then they don't, and then you wonder what went wrong and what happened, right? So I want to break down this little story about what happened with me with you and see if you notice some things, okay? So first, I put together all these comments and all these thoughts that may or may not have been true, such as I'm a bad cook. Well, that may or may not have been true, but regardless, I immediately had, an understanding of what was true about me. I can't do this. Okay, I messed up one time and now I'm, I can't do this? What in the world? I always mess things up. So now I'm even getting deeper. So outside of this one meal that flopped, I'm already turning into I always do this. I always mess things up. Do I? Do I really always mess things up? Tend to be very all or nothing there, right? To why am I such a failure? Wow, why am I such a failure? What a statement is that? And so where do these beliefs come from? Well, it could be very easy to look at the, things that are happening in our day-to-day right now and examine where does that come from within me. But a lot of times we reach a dead end. So I start trying to think, why do I feel this way? I know in my head rationally that these things aren't true. But at the same time, if I say it out loud, I am such a failure, I might really feel like a failure deep down inside. So it's got to go back a little bit further. In my opinion, and some research and study of others, if you can go back generally to childhood and think through your childhood when you first remember feeling these types of thoughts, right? So with me, for example, going back, I remember being very hard on myself from a very, very young age. And my mom did not push anything on me. She was more than okay with whatever, I did and whatever I achieved, and, praised me for doing well and so many different things. And yet all the time I still felt like I wasn't good enough, or I'm a failure if I didn't, win this award or achieve this status or whatever it may be. Always felt that way. And so being able to think, which this would take forever, this video, if I continue to go through the, the depths of my plumbing with this, but, being able to think back, where did those feelings first show themselves? And then think at that particular moment in time, were there other possible interpretations for me? So, for example, I felt like a failure or felt like I wasn't good enough. What were other possible interpretations? It could be, let's use an example of, I don't know, whenever I didn't make a grade that I wanted to make. I was pretty crazy when it came to my grades. I wanted all A's and I did the best I could to get those grades. But let's say that I did bring home a B, heaven forbid, which now I'm so over that, but that was something that was very important to me at the time. So let's say that I did bring home a B, right? And I could interpret it several ways. I could interpret it as, I'm such a failure, I'm not good enough. Or I could interpret it as, that was a really hard class, or that was a really hard teacher. Or I could interpret it as, I really probably should have tried a little harder in that class. I don't think I put my full effort into that class. I could have interpreted it as, life has been a little crazy lately. We just moved for the second time in a year. That may be why I didn't do so well in my class. I could have interpreted it as, I've gotten involved in a few too many things, and maybe I've gotten a little in over my head, which was very true. I often tended to do that and still have to watch myself because I tend to get involved in too much at once. And so any of those interpretations could have been true, right? So could it have been that I'm not good enough, I'm a failure? Theoretically, yes, it could have been. But could it have been any of those other things? Absolutely. It could have been any of those other things. And so then being able to look at that and say, okay, well, if it wasn't that, did I actually see, visually see, I'm a failure in that circumstance of getting a B, right? Did I see that? No. Because to see something, it has to be physically in space, right? It has a color, it has a shape, etc. I didn't see that. It was a meaning that I gave based on my interpretation. So within my head, I immediately took on the meaning deep within, I'm not good enough. I'm not enough. And then I took that with me into adulthood, right? And so then anytime I had a failure, anytime I didn't do something perfectly, I attributed that to being not good enough. So, now having looked back on all that, I can realize no, wait, that's not true. Not only is that not true in my head, being able to reconsider what other possible interpretations were when I was a child makes me realize that goes way back, not just, kind of sort of back, but way back. I'm 36 years old, so take it at least 20, 30 years back. And then, now I can see no, that was just one possible interpretation. I gave it that meaning. And so anyway, I give you that story. It's a little long, but I hope it kind of helps explain the idea behind this, behind thinking through your interpretations and the way you actually feel and see the world around you. So just this morning, I had a friend over and we were talking about this very thing about interpretations, and my fourthborn, bless him, is a very difficult child. He just is. He's really hard for me to manage. He's been way different from my other 4 children and just really been a struggle for me for various reasons. Anyway, this morning was no different than usual. He was a little beside himself, a little crazy, a little high energy, literally was ripping apart a piece of cardboard with his teeth, some of it for show, some of it because that's who he is. And after she left, I actually sent her a message and told her, in my head, I'm already thinking what she must think about me. She must think I'm not a good mom, or she must think that my son is, out there, he's a little overboard, or she must not want to be friends with me because she won't want to be around me and the chaos that this presents. And so even that, you see, I already started to get all these interpretations in my head. They may be true, they may not. She may have been thinking, man, that must be really hard to have to learn how to parent a child like that. Or, I wonder what's going on with that kid that he would respond and act that way. She may have thought nothing about it whatsoever because she has 4 kids of her own and she knows that kids are very different and they all have different struggles. But you see where the thought process can go. I could sit here and I could be twiddling my thumbs, worried what she thinks about me. I could. But where's that going to get me? And ultimately, I'm not going to grow and I'm not going to mature and I'm not going to get anywhere through that. I could tell her how I feel and what I thought, and I did. Like I said, I messaged her and told her those things. And I can be real and honest with where my struggles are. And that brings us to a whole different place of growth. So being able to grow and move forward, I know that, this is Wellness with Tara. So I know I help people in general with their health, but overall health also includes your emotional well-being. And so this is something that's very important as well, is your emotional well-being. And a lot of that surrounds mindset. So please, the next time you start going down that thought of, just these negative beliefs or negative thoughts or whatnot, think through what might be other possible interpretations. If you can just do that one step, what might be other ways to interpret this information or this event or whatever, it's going to bring you so much further in your path of growth. So this message is already getting a little bit long, so I'm going to wrap it up, but I hope it's been helpful. Please let me know if you have any thoughts or comments. I'd love to hear your kind of ruminations over it. If you've had any situations similar, ways that you've learned and grown, I'd love to hear about it. So hope you have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye-bye.